Welcome back into the college football every game on the board podcast, sportsmemo.com, with our next guest up, Robbie Veno, on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports. Robbie, welcome in. How you feeling?
I'm good today, Drew. How about yourself?
Good. Want to apologize to everyone out there for the late start watching live simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, but we will give you the normal information here from Robbie Veno, and judging by the comments, Robbie, people are really liking what you're throwing out there. So hopefully we can keep this going with ACC starting us off for this section. Guys, this is the Every Game on the Board podcast. We're going over every single college football game. We had Teddy Covers and Mid-Major Matt do the first two sections here, Thursday, Friday, and start of Saturday games. We're having Robbie Veno in now. Then we'll have Oskheim Sports, Jeff from WagerTalk.com, do the last section here of the Saturday card. So going all day long here. We'll also do NFL every game on the board as well. But starting off here in the ACC for this section, guys, 183, 184 down to 211, 212, the rotation numbers on the odds screen. We got North Carolina State at Syracuse. Robbie, we're seeing NC State here minus 14. That's the Wolfpack road favorites. 50.5 being the total in the Carrier Dome, Rob.
Yeah, power ratings made NC State 12. I think at this time of year, Drew, we're talking about the second to last game for a lot of these ACC teams. And by the time you hit this spot in the schedule, you can determine some teams that are dead and some teams that are still live. Syracuse might qualify as a dead team at this point in time. So maybe, the power ratings line, generally at this time of year, I give a little more play with it than I would during the regular time of the season. In this, I want to start off with just a couple of quick notes here because I gave some second half numbers last week. I think it was for the Tulsa game. Those numbers came true. There's some different second half numbers here between these two teams. Syracuse, for those of you who wait and bet at halftime, Syracuse is 1-8 under the total in the second half so far this year, only scoring 6.5 points in the second half on average, allowing 14, so 20.4 total. But the opposite of that is NC State, who's gone over 7 of their 9 games in the second half, 7-2 over. Their average second half score 31.5 or 31.4 to be exact. So, we've got a little discrepancy there. One of those two is probably going to work its way into the win column again. Start real quick here fundamentally with Syracuse and quarterback Jacoby and Morgan, who's being thrown into the fire this year. Drew, Syracuse has had their share of opt-outs. They've had their share of injuries, especially at the quarterback position. Morgan, now, I think he started 2 games, or he made his second start last week. This will be his third. But how about 5 for 12, 40 yards last week against Louisville? The Syracuse team had season lows in 10 offensive categories. Conversely, Louisville had season highs in 10 defensive categories. So Louisville, a bad defensive team, shut Syracuse down. They couldn't run. They couldn't throw. Gained 137 total yards in that 30-0 shutout. Those of you who watched it last Friday night know how poor Syracuse looked. 3.3 yards per play. This team hasn't scored more than 14 points in the last 3 games. Dino Babers is probably safe with his job, Drew. So this, to me, as I mentioned off the top here, is more like an experimentation period for Syracuse. A lot of young guys in the lineup. It's like a 2021 game. So to me, the power rating number of 12, not real significant. I think North Carolina State can get past this 14 number here because last week they hold Liberty to 279 total yards. Real impressive because Syracuse couldn't stop Liberty whatsoever when they played them. Liberty had 520 total yards. I think the quarterback for NC State, Bailey Hockman's a lot more comfortable now in this offense. Remember, it's a new offense, and he took over few games ago, but he looks a little more comfortable. Syracuse getting pounded at the line of scrimmage, 86.7 yards per game rushing, 213.7 for their opponents. It's a difference of 127. I feel like North Carolina State, Drew, can use their running game. Zonovan Knight, Ricky Pearson, and Hockman run the football right at Syracuse, pass off of that. They should be able to get into the 35-plus area in this contest. Both these teams run a 3-3-5. They're both familiar with it. And like I say, I just feel like Syracuse is in full next year mode. I would probably play NC State here minus the points.
Looking towards the Wolfpack in the first game up. We're also staying in the ACC for the next one here. Duke at Georgia Tech, 7 p.m. Eastern kick in this one. Pick 'em price here. Robbie, at most sports books, that's Duke on the road. Pick 'em. There are a couple shops that show Duke -1 here. 58 the total. Robbie, I'll tell you, Duke, I believe, has had Georgia Tech's number here. Cutcliffe, I believe 6-0 ATS the last 6 in this matchup. This one in Bobby Dodd, Atlanta, Georgia. What are you thinking, Duke versus Georgia Tech?
Well, for me, Drew, I'm going to repeat what I said a few weeks back when we did Duke and Charlotte. And it's pretty evident with this team this year, when Duke can run, they score and they gain yards. They need a defense that complies with that, a defense that can be run on, and they get one here in Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, number 14 out of 15 ACC teams in run defense. That works right into Duke's strength here in this game. The total number of yards they give up per game is 203. If you just think back, guys, to the Duke-Syracuse game, where Duke ran like crazy, to the Duke-Charlotte game, where Duke ran like crazy, and the Duke-Virginia Tech game, those three in particular, because those are three very poor run defenses in those games for totals players out there. The total in the Syracuse game ended up 62, Charlotte 72, Virginia Tech 69. All three games went way over the total. For me, I don't have to look any farther than that. To me, over 58 is an immediate mechanical knee-jerk play in this game just because of the way Duke has shown throughout the season how they put up points against teams that can't stop the run. Now, we'll just go a little bit deeper for those who can't be convinced off of that. Georgia Tech hasn't played in the last couple of weeks because of coronavirus, so we never know exactly what we're going to get, but I wouldn't say we're going to get a stellar defensive effort from GT. They haven't put forth one of those all season long. But they're also better offensively when they can run first. They don't want to put the game on true freshman Jeff Sims' shoulders, the quarterback. When they've had to do it, he's been a turnover machine. But when they can run, they've been real successful too as far as yardage and points are concerned. Duke is 9th in the ACC in run defense, 178 yards per game allowed. So to me, yeah, you just put those two fundamental things together. Both of these teams are going to be able to throw off of the run. Both of these teams should be able to put up yards and points. For Georgia Tech, they played, they only average 167 yards a game rushing overall, but you have to factor in that they've played the two best run defenses in that league, or two of the three, in Notre Dame and Clemson. It skews their numbers a little bit. To me, the most comparable game for Georgia Tech, I showed you 3 Duke games. I'll give you one Georgia Tech game, would be the Louisville game. When they played Louisville, that game went 46-27, 73 points. To me, Drew, this game's over. It hits in the, at least in the low 60s, probably the mid 60s. So over 58 would be a play for me.
Robbie, heading to the Big Ten for the next two, we got Maryland, the Terrapins at the Indiana Hoosiers. We're seeing the Hoosiers -11 in the hook or -11, depending what sports book you want to go off of. 63 the total in Bloomington.
Well, I probably don't have to tell anybody watching how good the offenses are, right? They've both been really good. Indiana showed up last week, although it took down 35-7 before Indiana started scoring points. At that point in time, Ty Freifogel took over and caught 3 touchdowns from outside the red zone. Indiana scores 28 points in a span of 10 minutes and 26 seconds in that particular game between the third and fourth quarter to get back in it. But I'm going to go to this, Drew. To me, this is the most significant factor in this game. When I look at Indiana laying 11.5, does their schedule warrant them being an 11.5 point favorite? They've beaten Rutgers. They've beaten Michigan. They've beaten Michigan State. They beat Penn State. I didn't add up the combined record of wins and losses between those 4, but I can guarantee it's pretty poor. They could have lost the Penn State game for sure. If the Penn State running back kneels, they run out the clock. It never makes overtime. Indiana never wins. So in that game, they're outgained by Penn State 498-211. Pretty significant number there. Last week against Ohio State, while all the talks about how Indiana covered and came close, let's not forget that they gave up 607 total yards. Now you're going to face Maryland, Talia Tagovailoa, and that offense, which is loaded with speed, probably can dent the Indiana defense. I would think Indiana's offense can dent Maryland's too. If we just look at Maryland's schedule real quick, they played Northwestern, probably the best defensive team. It's certainly a better defensive team than anybody Indiana's played, but they got crushed 43-3. They come back, they play Minnesota 45-44. They beat Penn State by 16, not one in overtime, and they outgained Penn State. They didn't get outgained by 200 some odd yards. They outgained them 434-405. To me, there's some certain edges here that lie with Maryland. Plus 11.5, Drew, probably offsets the fact that they've been off for a couple of weeks, and this will be the first game they played in 21 days. Situationally, can Indiana get up again after the Ohio State game? I think I've said this before. Tom Allen's such a great motivator. I always say yes to that question. Maryland, again, situationally hasn't played, or it'll be the first game they played in 21 days. I think I would like Maryland plus the points, but even more so, guys, I think I would like over 62.5, if that's still the number here, in this game, because I don't see either defense stopping the opposing offense. This will be an up and down the field type game.
Yeah, and it is seeing a little over money here, Robbie, with mostly 63s. There is a couple even 63 in the hooks popping up. So looking towards the over in the Maryland-Indiana game. He's Rob Veno on Twitter, at Rob Veno Sports. I'm Drew Martin on Twitter, at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, in the chat box, welcome in Proud Babylonian, Josh Gillum, Johnny Outlaw, City by the Bay on Twitter as well. If you're watching on Twitter, welcome in Periscope, WagerTalk. Twitter handle there. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below. Love reading those. And if you're liking the content, guys, please give us the like button. That does help us out. Staying in the Big Ten here, Robbie, we got Rutgers at Purdue up next, 62 being the total, with Purdue, another 11-point spread here in the Big Ten, -11 or a -11 a hook at home.
Yeah, you've got to love the Purdue offense, Drew. Last week, it seemed like that pass interference call, offensive pass interference, was very iffy at best. Otherwise, Purdue beats Minnesota in that game. Of course, coming down to the wire against a team that was -20 players due to coronavirus, isn't that great either. But when you add Rondale Moore to that offense, which already has David Bell and all kinds of threats, even last week, without their starting quarterback, Aiden McConnell, Jack Plummer's a real good backup. So Purdue shouldn't have any trouble here. Rutgers, Greg Schiano, we said it last week. People have been saying it all year long, so I'm not telling them anything new. But Rutgers is going to give you 60 minutes worth of effort. The problem for them is on the defensive side, they're still not that good. Purdue probably gets their share in this game. However, what I've been surprised at, Drew, is the way Rutgers has been able to score with Noah Vedral at quarterback. A Nebraska transfer that comes in and runs this new offense, and they get 27 against Ohio State. They've been able to produce some points here, which has to make you look at the total in this game. I'm not so sure. I didn't check the weather on this one in West Lafayette for Saturday. So Drew and I are doing this show on Wednesday. Guys, go ahead and just make sure West Lafayette's clear here. If so, on that field, which isn't a grass surface, it's a field turf type surface. I think it's a prescription grass or something. I would think that these two teams can get their share of points. The odds maker has done a real good job putting this total in a good place. So I'm not as confident as I would be in, say, the Indiana-Maryland game of it making it over this type of number. I'm a little skeptical of Rutgers here on the road. I know that a lot of people have hitched their, trailer to the Rutgers wagon. I don't know that I would here, Drew. I just think off of what I saw last week from Purdue in Rondale Moore's first game back and the frustration that head coach Jeff Brom had. Remember, he's one of my favorite coaches to get quotes from, and everything he said in that Monday press conference leads me to believe that Purdue's going to be more than ready, breathing fire in this game. So I might look slightly toward Purdue here minus the points. Over maybe a little, but like I say, not as confident as I would be in that Indiana-Maryland game going over.
And Robbie pulled it up here. West Lafayette, Indiana weather for Saturday. Looks like 46 degrees being the high. Light winds, no rain. So should be good for scoring points if that's where you were going.
Yeah, and I think Purdue will certainly get their share. And I think, Drew, those weather conditions that you're reading are generally the same exact weather conditions that we're going to see throughout the Midwest and throughout the East this week. I didn't find a lot of problems weather-wise with games in those geographic regions this week.
Yeah, and talking about that now, Robbie, we're talking Maction on this podcast. I don't know if it has the same kind of flair as a Tuesday night, Wednesday night Maction, and I know the Maction show that we did very well here. So I guess we can count this as the Maction show, Robbie, as we work our way down the next 6 games or 5 games here to close out this section with Robbie Veno. It's all Maction the rest of the way here, Robbie. 12 noon Eastern kick on Saturday, 195, 196. Kent State at Buffalo, 67.5 being the total. We're seeing Buffalo -7 or -7 in the hook, with the Kent State Zips taking some, or not the Zips, Kent State taking some money here, Robbie, getting my MAC teams, the Akron Zips, that would be. We got Kent State. They're taking a huge step up in class here, though, Robbie. So the market is giving them a lot of respect in terms of what it opened 9.5. Now it's only 7.5. But I'll tell you, Robbie, I don't know. I'm not looking to go against this Buffalo team. I know Kent State's look good, but this isn't the same type of competition.
Yeah, and neither team has really faced great competition so far, right? I mean, Northern Illinois and Buffalo's opener as a team, as we talked on the Maction show, is a team dominated by freshmen and transfers. Something like 70% of that roster is filled with freshmen and transfers. So Northern Illinois wasn't that big of a deal. Miami of Ohio, certainly the second week of the season after the backup quarterback proved to be pretty good in the first week. Buffalo shut them down, did what they do. They beat Miami of Ohio, and then they disposed of Bowling Green, which everybody does. So neither team has been really tested yet. Certainly Buffalo, not by this style of tempo, not by this productive of an offense. Even though Kent State hasn't played great teams, 1,417 yards in the last 2 games is a lot of yards. That's 704 a game. They go ultra fast. We'll see if Buffalo, we've said it before, Drew, they have the best starting unit and they have the deepest amount of defensive linemen as far as talent is concerned in the MAC. And they're going to need that rotation because Kent will come out there and try and wear that defensive line out so that they're tired of pass rushing, so that they're tired of chasing running backs by late third, early fourth quarter, mid fourth quarter. So that's going to be a real test for Buffalo. However, the test on the other side is Kent's defense is still no good. And here comes Jarrett Patterson and that running game. So I can understand people pushing this game from 64.5 up to 68 where the total is concerned. Kent has had a habit early on of making these 60s numbers look real small. And if you just do the math in your head, you probably would need something like 38-31 Buffalo is what the odds makers basically tell, or what the numbers are telling you now. The odds maker had a lower total to start with. 38-31. Does anybody think that's out of the realm of possibility between these two teams? Probably not. Kent State's either going to go 3 and out real quick, or they're going to go down the field real quick. And Buffalo, there may be a few plays where Jarrett Patterson takes a handoff and sees nothing but goalposts after that with that defense that Kent brings to the table. So I think, again, it's almost impossible. We joke about it, right? Good luck with those MAC unders, but it's almost impossible to play this game under. I don't know which side I'd go to. I'd probably lean Buffalo, but I know Buffalo's in for as stiff a test, at least defensively, as they've been in for all season long.
Yeah, Robbie, I'm sort of worried about that because, betting the over, and I'm not looking to bet the under by any means, but if it doesn't hit, you brought it up. I mean, Kent State 3 and outs, that wouldn't surprise me either. If it was just, middle of the second quarter and Kent State sitting there, at maybe 0 points, or maybe they got one big play in and they put a 7 up, but they're not able to move the ball. I mean, these huge numbers, like you talked about, 1,400 yards in the last 2 weeks. That I don't know if you carry over all of that against a Buffalo defense that is pretty strong, Robbie.
Right. There's no way. I mean, if they gained 700 yards against Buffalo, then Buffalo played with 5 defenders. There's just no way that that's happening here. If we tame Kent down and bring them to maybe 450. The good news about 3 and outs with Kent, Drew, is that 3 and outs don't take any time off
Yeah.
the clock with them. They take about 26 seconds off the clock. So they get their share, 16, 17 possessions a game. And like I say, I don't know that Buffalo can churn clock, basically because they're going to be able to gain rushing yardage in chunks. I just don't think that Buffalo's going to methodically go down the field. They're going to give it to Patterson. A few times we're going to see 20, 30, 18. It carries like that, where they can score fairly quickly as well. So it's difficult to play under. Numbers going up. 38-31 is where I have my head set here. And if you feel like it can get there, guys, then you got to play over before they bet this thing even higher.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of guys in the chat box, like in the Kent State side, plus the points. You can still get it plus 7.5 out there. It looks like it's going that way, though, Robbie, in terms of the money's coming in on Kent State. So we might even get, if you'd like in the Kent State side, probably jump on those that hook on the 7 sooner than later, because those might be gone by kickoff. That's at least the way the market's pointing to right now. The day before Thanksgiving, guys, we're breaking down every single game on the college football slate. Robbie Veno, the third handicapper up for the college football every game on the board podcast. We'll bring in Jeff from Oskheim Sports, and just at the 4 o'clock Pacific hour, we got the 3 o'clock hour dedicated towards the NFL every game on the board podcast. Wherever you're downloading your podcasts at, Sports Memo Podcast, also simulcast live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, on Periscope WagerTalk, on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Feel free to shout out any questions you want at me. Rob Veno on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports. And also, if you're watching on replay, guys, that's more than welcome as well. Feel free to drop a comment below. And if you're liking the content, always helps us out to smash the like button. We got Maction up here for the rest of the way. 197, 198, also a noon Eastern kickoff. Actually, Robbie, all of these are noon Eastern. So 9 a.m. on Saturday. Get ready for your Maction as it takes over on Saturday morning, Robbie. But we got 64.5. The total in the next game here. Northern Illinois at Western Michigan. We're seeing Western Michigan minus 20-point favorites at home. I'll tell you, their quarterback's looking pretty good, Robbie, but I don't know. 3 touchdowns. You ready to lay that with the Western Michigan Broncos?
Yeah, it could be a letdown situation here, Drew, although I don't know, again, that in a 6-game season, you're going to see letdowns. I mean, in Major League Baseball, when they had the 60-game season, right, they just called it a sprint. And there's no time to let down if you're a MAC team, especially if you're one that's trying to win your division and get yourself to the MAC title game, which Western Michigan is. They've answered the bell the last 2 weeks because, remember, they had Toledo. They come back down 2 scores with like a minute and a half left, and they get a miraculous comeback and win that game. And then last week, I think a lot of people tried that Central Michigan side against them, and they got off to a real fast start and put 52
that
on
was a
Central
good game.
Michigan.
I was on Central Michigan, Robbie, but yeah, you're right. It wasn't the right side.
Yeah, your buddy Daniel Richardson there, the QB for Central, they had a nice game, Drew, 44 points, a lot of yards, but they couldn't stop Western Michigan whatsoever. So Northern Illinois probably can't stop them either. Like I say, the question is, will they give 100% effort here, Western Michigan? I'm not sure. I'll say this. Here's a red flag for Northern Illinois, and this can't keep up. But so far, Northern Illinois, has committed 6 turnovers this year. 5 of those turnovers have been returned for touchdowns. That's 35 points off of offensive mistakes that crush you. So as they get more seasoned here, those numbers have to go down. Russ Bowers is too good of a quarterback to remember he's a Cal transfer, to have that type of thing continue. Interception returns, fumble returns. I don't think Western Michigan gets points off of that this week. If Northern Illinois doesn't help them, they've shown spurts where it makes you think that they could cover this number. For me, this is probably a leave it alone game. But if I had to, and I've gone to the well with Northern Illinois once before and got whacked around pretty good. But I might, I'm not going to play it. But on this show, I guess I could suggest, if you have to play this game, maybe look towards Northern Illinois plus all those points. I just don't think, Drew, that giving away points, your offense continues at the amount that Northern Illinois has given them up the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, excuse me.
Good stuff from Robbie Veno here as we move down the card. Maction style, Ball State at Toledo. We're seeing the Rockets -10 in the Glass Bowl, 63.5 the total here, Robbie.
Boy, they were pissed off last week after they lost that game to Western Michigan because they came out. Listen, there's a group at the top of this conference, Drew, where it wouldn't surprise me if any one of them won this MAC championship, and Toledo fits right into that mix. They're that good, especially offensively, especially with that running game, and they're so balanced. I shouldn't even just say the running game. They're just so balanced offensively, and at times they can be good defensively, but like every other MAC team, they've got their share of holes on the defensive side. That's why we play so many overs in the MAC, because a lot of these offenses are really good and a lot of these defenses are thin and they get worn out. And it seems to happen week in and week out. Against Ball State, a team that was, I think they've scored 31 or more in every single game. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for quarterback Drew Plitt, they would have a touchdown extra in 2 of these 3 games. I mean, he has made some real bad passes. Last week, I think he got picked off in the end zone on a drive where they went right down the field. It cost him 7. You could see them scoring here. I'm a little bit baffled that this number would go down from 65 to 63.5, because again, you know, when you get down to 63.5, Drew, it gives you a couple of key numbers back. Now, 64, when you get into the 60s, a lot of these numbers become common for final score. 34-30, 44-20, 41-23 are all types of scores that when you get scoring that much, games land on. So to give me back 64 and 65, which is far more common, you know, just traditional football, a 41-24 game, something like that, more traditional, 34-31 if it's close, wins. I don't think we've seen enough of Ball State's defense right now to know they can't stop a team as high-powered as Toledo. That's just not happening. Unless Toledo comes out and lays an egg, they're getting to the mid-30s. And I think Ball State can chase. Those receivers are good. Caleb Huntley at running back is an absolute beast. Every time he runs the ball and I look at those thighs, I think, who the hell wants to tackle this guy? Yeah. And by the end of the third quarter, nobody wants to tackle him. So for me, I think this number's come down far enough to get involved. And I would say Ball State and Toledo, the over in this game is probably as good as it gets from a totals perspective in the MAC this week.
And Robbie, you know, you bring up Drew Plitt, and that even week 1 went back. It changed the game. That he had a guy open, and it might have been a touchdown the other way. He throws the pick the other way, and they end up losing. There's a lot of talent. I think he, you know, for a MAC quarterback, he's pretty good when you watch him throw the football. It's just he's making big mistakes. So I'm with you. Ball State's kind of a difficult handicap here. I mean, if you're looking for reasons why this total's going down, first I want to point out the fact that you said all these key numbers and totals, and guys, if you're new to sports betting, you know, a key number where a game's normally going to fall, it's not as key as, say, you know, 2.5 to 3 to 3.5 in the NFL, with so many games landing on the number 3 in the NFL. But a total in college football, you always got to keep in mind these numbers are important. And like Robbie just kind of rattled off here, 63, 64, kind of an important key-ish number in terms of college football totals. So that was a really good breakdown, Robbie. Just kind of to ask you a question in terms of why this is getting under money, in terms of the total is coming down. So at least either bigger money, meaning there's more money on the unders, or key accounts are betting the under at certain sports books to make the under, you know, get lower in the betting markets. We're kind of getting a mini bye week here in the MAC, just coming from, you know, Tuesday action to they didn't play last night or tonight, unfortunately for Maction, in my opinion, but they're playing Saturday. So they get extra preparation time for this week. Do you think that could have something to do with it in terms of, you know, working on fundamentals defensively?
You know, the first thing you always think of nowadays, Drew, is one team affected by a case of corona. Okay. But this line, I mean, the line has gone Toledo and under. Okay. It's correlating here. Toledo's gone up from 8.5 to 10, a 1.5 point move, and the totals come down 1.5 points. But to me, if it was a true coronavirus situation, and I tried to find something on it today. I couldn't find anything on it. And coaches are real tight-lipped about these situations. But to me, if it was a true coronavirus situation, there's more than a 1.5 point move. I mean, we see these moves on these games. They're humongous. So I think it's just people thinking that, maybe Ball State won't get to the Toledo defense here. I'm not sure, but I'll say this. Ball State, despite the mistakes that we have both mentioned from Drew Plitt, they've still climbed 31 every single game. And even in last week's game against a team like Northern Illinois, which isn't an offensive juggernaut, that game landed on 56. That's only, a touchdown and a 2-point conversion less than what we're asked to get here. And the opponent is Toledo, far more explosive than Northern Illinois. A little better defensively, far more explosive offensively. So, I don't know. It's a little head-scratching to me why it came down, Drew.
Great stuff from Robbie Veno. Guys, check him out, WagerTalk.com. Number one handicap. No, Robbie, are we number one or are we number two? Do you know?
They haven't posted that, but I'll say this. I haven't played a game in 2 days, so there's no way I went up. So I'd say Yanni is still the number one guy.
Okay, well, check that out. He's either number one or number two in the Wager Talk ranking. So if you're looking for a good handicapper, he's number one or number two on the list, depending on, I guess, what the other number one or number two handicapper would have been doing in the last 2 days. So check him out, WagerTalk.com. And guys, coupon code BF999. That is Black Friday, BF999. We'll take $1,000 off his 1 year all access package at WagerTalk.com. Next game up here, Robbie. We got 3 games left and 7 minutes to do it, Robbie, because again, guys, apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning. So we'll steam through these last 3 games. Bowling Green at Ohio, 54.5 being the total. Ohio Bobcats minus 24 at home.
I can be real quick here, Drew. Because of my dislike for Ohio U this year, I would play Bowling Green or not play at all. And I know this is, you mentioned Bowling Green, and it would be a hold your nose special, right? Because Bowling Green has given us no reason. There's been maybe 1 or 2 quarters out of 12 where McDonald and this offense have looked competent. However, I could say the same thing about Frank Solich's team. Ohio U has not looked good, and to me, they have no business. I don't care who they're playing. They have no business laying 24 points. If for nothing else, you can see from the sidelines that Bowling Green continues to try. They continue to play hard. I think Ohio U is just lost, Drew. I could see them winning this game, something like 31-14, which gets you a cover here. Bowling Green's going to get a couple of scores against these guys, which means Ohio U probably has to make it to 40 to cover this game. And I just, like I say, I don't have enough faith in them. I don't like them very much this year and watching them a couple of times. And they're a very methodical football team offensively. They're not Kent State with tempo. They're not any of these other teams that press the gas pedal. Frank Solich just, goes at his own regular traditional pace. So for me, it would be Bowling Green plus the points. If you have to play, guys, I'm not coming in here with some strong recommendation unloading my pockets on Bowling Green. If you love to play every MAC game, I would say try Bowling Green here for a couple of bucks.
Yeah, the degenerate special on every MAC game. If that's how you're doing it, that's where Robbie's going. And another one, you talk about the 2 worst teams. You'd say Bowling Green and Akron. I'll tell you, though, Robbie, and talking about, I said the Zips for Kent State. It's the Akron Zips. It's the Kent State Golden Flashes. So take it easy on me, guys, in the comments below. But we got Miami of Ohio at Akron here, 55 the total. The Redhawks for Miami of Ohio, minus 14 or minus 14 in the hook. I kind of like the Zips here, Robbie. I mean, Tom Arth has got them playing hard. They're not quitting on the season.
Well, for sure, their running game is dynamic with Tion Dollard. I mean, this kid the last 2 weeks he's a home run waiting to happen every time he touches the ball. And I know Miami and Chuck Martin, a pretty disciplined defense, but if just saying that Bowling Green is trying for 60 minutes every game, like you just said, you could probably multiply that by 2 or 2.5 and apply it to Akron, because I think Akron's slightly more talented, at least from what they've shown us here. But they just don't play any defense whatsoever. And I have visions of Miami and that passing game that we saw in week 1 against Ball State coming back to life here. For me right now, Drew, Akron is a team that you put the asterisk next to with an oversign, because they're not going to play enough defense, and they're gonna score enough at this point in time with Dollard. The fact that they have that quick explosive, game-breaking threat that Bowling Green doesn't, makes them a far more attractive total team. And here, I mean, look at the number. I'm staring at 54 and a half. To me, that's outrageously low. I think even though it's Miami, with that defense that they're facing, they'll find their way to 38 points, and this game should probably get well above this number of 54. I had said before that the total of 63 and a half in the Toledo game is as good as it gets in the MAC. This is right there with it. This might be better than that one because Akron's going to get their share, and I think Miami against that defense will get theirs.
And Robbie, I don't have the schedule in front of me. Do we have San Jose State, Boise State to end it?
We do. That's our closer. Yep.
Okay, we got the closer here, guys. Then we'll get the best bet from Robbie. 3 minutes left in this section. 211, 212, San Jose State at Boise State. 58 the total. Boise State, the Broncos, minus 11 on the blue turf.
Yeah, lots of offense here in this game, Drew. We saw Boise State, when they get up big, they just go to sleep, right? Last week, Hawaii scores 29 in the second half to push that game well over the total. So I wouldn't talk anybody off an overplay here, but I really wouldn't talk anybody off a San Jose State play either. It's a team that is far better than they've been in years past, both offensively and defensively. They do press the gas pedal. They do go downfield. Boise State's secondary is susceptible. I think both ends of this are live. It just matters which you like more, or if you like to play, both separately. I'm not going to recommend any parlays, but hey, boy, to me, San Jose State plus this amount of points and this total being less than 60, I think both have a real live chance to come through and cash a ticket.
He's Robbie Veno on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports. Feel free to shout him out. Also on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, if you're watching on replay, feel free to leave a comment below. Please smash the like button. Check him out, WagerTalk.com, the number 2 handicapper in terms of profit produced all year long for 2020. So he's up over 200% ROI if you've bet every single game that he's released at WagerTalk.com. And the coupon code BF999. That's BF as in Black Friday. 999 for $1,000 off his 1-year all access package. Robbie, closing it out here. Do you have a most confident play for this section of the podcast?
I do, Drew. We have done it before on this particular broadcast with you, and I'll do it again. I laid out the case for Duke and Georgia Tech over. Used it with Charlotte. The week they played Charlotte came through rather easily. I just think that when Duke can run the football as their lead option on offense, you see the results. They're blatantly different than when they play a good run defense and have to leave the game and chase Bryce's hands in that miserable pass protecting offensive line. So for me, Duke and Georgia Tech over the 58, best bet out of this segment of the games that we did.
Going to the ACC with that over Duke, Georgia Tech from Robbie Veno. Anything you want to throw out there before we shut this down, Robbie?
Yeah, just happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Be safe, cash some tickets. I don't know. I think I'll be back Friday with Prez and Teddy on the noon Eastern show. But everybody, happy holidays. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate all of you that tune in each week.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge shout out to the chat box watching live. Leg Show Magazine, welcome in Johnny Outlaw, Harold Martinez, the Japanese baseball TV channel, welcome in as well. Everybody is welcome. So, guys, we'll be right back actually with Ski Profit doing the NFL every game on the board. If you're watching live simulcast on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, stay tuned. We'll be starting in just a couple minutes. So,